Hi YouTube, welcome back to my channel. This is Lydia with Sweet King's Garden, and today we are cooking with poblano peppers. Now, it is the end of the growing season. I don't think I'm going to get many more peppers left, and these are quite small compared to what I've harvested earlier in the summer. However, I wanted to harvest what I can, and I'm going to share my most favorite poblano recipe down below. And this video is actually going to spin off of that recipe just slightly because I don't have all of the ingredients, but nonetheless, this is an extremely versatile recipe. If you love poblano peppers as much as my husband and I do, you're going to love this recipe. So I am going to narrate what I do for the rest of the video. And I think we're going to end up making quesadillas with this. So let's see how that works. At the time I shot this video, I was 23 weeks pregnant and on my lunch break. So I was preparing dinner for Alex and I for the rest of the week. And again, this is just such a versatile recipe. So definitely encourage you to take a look at that recipe below. The very first step is you want to start roasting your poblanos. So I took a baking sheet, put foil on that, and then arranged the poblano peppers, and then I broiled those peppers on low, flipping them occasionally. You can hear them when they start to char, and then you're just going to rotate them. I then took a couple of cloves of garlic, smashed them, diced them up really good, and whenever I cook, I have a discard bowl of things that I will eventually walk to our compost bin, so that's what you see there. But I just start chopping away at my garlic. I eyeballed what was needed in the recipe and of course bumped that up a little bit. And my knife skills obviously are not this fast. This video is sped up for your viewing pleasure. After I got the garlic nice and diced up, I set that aside and then I started dicing up the red onion. So the recipe does call for some onion, a small red onion, and I had about 1/4 of a red onion that was in my refrigerator, so no things were going to waste this day. So I just diced up what I have. Feel free to use whatever you have on hand and just make it work. I've played around with this recipe a ton. Even if you do not have poblano peppers, by all means use regular bell peppers. I've done that before and all of this turns out just so wonderfully. So after I had those items diced, I wanted to check on my poblano peppers, give them a turn because I could start to hear that the first layer started to char. So the goal is to char all sides, but you do not want to burn your peppers. After that, I had 2 ears of fresh corn in the fridge. The recipe does call for, I think, a can or a cup maybe. And I just used, again, what I had on hand. So just taking the corn off of the cob here directly into a bowl. This will eventually be our mixing bowl for all of the filling. So the corn's going to hang out here and we will be adding the rest of the ingredients to that bowl later. After that, the recipe calls for Roma tomatoes. I used my garden tomatoes that I had on hand and diced them up really nice. I have a different knife that I typically use for my tomatoes that makes the slicing much easier. This wasn't too bad, but I am one of those folks that just hate doing dishes unnecessarily, so I'll try to minimize how many items that I'm using when I'm cooking. And you'll probably notice that because if I don't have a correct measuring device, I'll just use my hand. So again, I heard my poblanos crackling in the oven, so I took them out, gave them a nice little turn. Feel free to set your timer so that you can keep track of these, maybe 6 minutes per side. After that, I added them back into the oven. Again, on a broil, I have a pan heated up with some oil, and I added 1 pound of chorizo. Now, chorizo is the key ingredient here. You do not want to substitute this. So substitute anything else, but you definitely want to get a nice pack of chorizo here as your filling. So after the poblanos were officially finished roasting, I added them all to a bowl and then I put a cover on them using foil. I've also used saran wrap to cover, and you want to let these hang out for at least 20 minutes. The reason why is because these are going to sweat and it's going to allow you to peel off the outer layer of the peppers, and that way you don't get these rough pieces when you're trying to eat into your stuffed pepper or what you'll see the filling later. So to the meat mixture, I added 1 can of rinsed black beans and then the onion and garlic that we had chopped up just a moment ago, and then I let that all start to cook together. I don't know if the recipe calls for this. It may just say to cook the meat separately, but I find adding in the filling together and letting the flavors meld really works out. And then as you've seen, I have a small can of tomato paste that I have on deck, and then I pulled out a bag of this microwave cilantro lime rice. These are microwavable 90-second packets that I get from Costco, and it makes it super easy rather than using the brown rice that the recipe calls for. So also at the end of the kitchen counter, you see I start adding the seasonings that the recipe called for, the cumin and such, and just add that to the mixture. You want to combine everything. So meat, onion, garlic, tomato paste, and seasonings and black beans there. So then I work on my filling bowl, which currently only has the corn and tomatoes. I am going to add the cheese, which I did not have any Mexican or cotija cheese this day, so I used cream cheese. We had a very big block of Costco size cream cheese, so I missed a clip here. I added the cream cheese and then the rice, and then once the meat mixture was done, I added that all to the filling bowl. So as you see here, it's been at least 20 minutes. I think when this day I had to resume after my lunch break, and this is now after work, but I am starting to peel the poblano peppers. So having them sweat in that bowl covered really makes that process easy. Your hands will get quite messy between peeling and then when you have to go to de-seed these peppers. So I encourage you to work in a space where you can rinse your hands and dry them off nearby. You might have to do that throughout your time as you're trying to peel and de-seed the poblanos. And obviously, the larger peppers that you work with, the faster this goes. And in my case, the poblano peppers that I was working with were just very small compared to what I was getting earlier in the season. But nonetheless, this is why I will not be stuffing these poblano peppers. Instead, I'm going to dice them up. So that's another way where what I'm doing here will divert from the recipe that you read online. So the flavor profiles are still exactly the same, but in my case, because these peppers are so small, it's way too tedious for me to stuff them all. And I do have to say, our quesadillas were phenomenal. I had tacos with this, quesadillas, and we even added the meat mixture for breakfast a couple of days too. So again, I can't say how versatile this is. So after I finish peeling, I'm slicing each of these peppers just once lengthside. You are going to continue to you'll follow that method if you are stuffing them. You do not want to slice all the way through the pepper. You just want to make one slit on one side, which will allow you to eventually take the seeds out, but preserve the cup essentially that the pepper is making. So from here, I'm going to remove the seeds and stems. Again, this is tedious. And I will say, poblanos may have a slight heat. So for anyone who wears contacts, you might want to wear gloves during this. I did make the mistake working with these once upon a time. And when I went to remove my contacts later that evening, my eyes were burning. So definitely protect yourself. So here I am dicing our de-skinned, de-seeded poblano peppers, and we'll be adding this all to our filling. Okay, so we've just finished making the stuffing. It came together so very fast, and this is very versatile. So if you were actually sticking to the recipe, you would not dice up the poblanos. Instead, you would peel them, slice them in half, take the seeds out, and then you would use the stuffing and stuff the poblanos, sprinkle some Mexican cheese, pop them in the broiler or oven to just melt the cheese, and then you are good to go. Dollop with all of your favorite Mexican food toppings, and it's just really, really yummy. So I'm actually going to save the stuffing, and we are just going to use the stuffing to make quesadillas, probably put it on some fried eggs in the morning, and then I could even add this as some kind of topping for my salads during this week. So I hope you give this recipe a try. If you do, feel free to let me know how you liked it, and I hope to see you soon. Thanks, bye-bye.